And yes, as mentioned, we're going to be revisiting the Redhill School. We had Mr. Joseph Garesi, executive head of Redhill School. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. How time flies. In response to a correspondence that was sent out at yes, Alailo, correcting me, yeah, 2 weeks ago, in response to a correspondence that was sent out to the school community regarding no discussion on the school's premises regarding the Palestine-Israeli issue and what is transpiring. At that time, there was still aggression, Israeli aggression on Gaza Strip, with all those rockets going. Many people lost their lives. And many students, including former heads, former alumni, upset that they felt that communication indicated censorship and unconstitutional. And yes, there was we spoke to Mr. Garesi, and then I received a call on Friday from the school indicating that they are going to have a panel discussion, and they've invited panelists to address the pupils. It was the matrics and the grade 11s, but we'll get clarity on that. And they invited guests. So they invited Professor Anton Haber. As we know, Professor Anton Haber is the Caxton Professor of Journalism at the University of Witwatersrand. He's a co-founder and editor of the anti-apartheid newspaper, the Weekly Mail, now the Mail and Guardian, and he wears many hats. He's also a board member of the Global Investigative Journalism Network and chair of Africa Check, and former chair of the Essay Conference of Editors as well. So a very, very accomplished journalist, professor indeed. And then they had Flo Letoboawa. She is a seasoned broadcaster with over 15 years experience in television, news and current affair anchoring, as well as a talk and radio news presenter. And lastly, to conclude the panelists, they had Mr. Ben Wings, who is an advocate who specializes in media, constitutional and international law. So I have joining us two pupils. In terms of, I wanted to understand their perceptions after having heard the panelists, in terms of what was their perceptions of the whole panel discussion, and do they feel they are better equipped now in terms of discourse around this issue. So joining us is Thomas Halle, and he's the student president of Redhill, as well as Talha Niazi, who's head of student judiciary at Redhill. So let me welcome both of them to Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media. Welcome, peace and blessings both to Thomas as well as Talha. So let me start with you, Thomas. I'm sure you had a very informative, educational morning today with renowned panelists.
Yes, yeah. So today was really interesting, and I was reflecting about today versus school, and I think, going through school, and especially now in matric, we kind of have become used to school being about strategy. How can I get the best marks? How can I, go about acing my tests? I think today was really about education. It was about
life education. Mm-hmm. Life education, education about life. And so tell me, do you feel now you better equipped in terms of progressing dialogue on the subject, a better understanding in terms of this as well after today's talk? Maybe if you can just reflect a bit and tell us what was your take out from the various panelists?
So yeah, I mean, I think today what I really learned was about how to critically assess what is going on in our world. I mean, we did look at Redhill about the communication that has come out in the last 2 and a bit weeks, but we also, were provided with narratives about Palestine and from Israel from different perspectives. So, for me, I wasn't pushed to come to my, with an agenda from someone. It was really about, how do I feel about these issues and where do I sit within them? And I really enjoyed today because it was very educational.
Absolutely. And also, I'm sure you were educated in terms of how to read various news sources in terms of making an informed decision, uh, and what you see and how to analyze what you see. Was that discussed as well?
Yes, yeah. So it's about, I think, today was about really how do we go about having these discussions in an informative and a progressive way without tearing other people down, without offending anyone, but really just hearing from other people. So yeah, that was definitely my experience.
So let me bring now Talha here. So Talha, you had your panelists. In fact, I'm in awe of the panelists you have, because actually they are really giants in terms of the media. You have Professor Anton Haber as well there, very an expert. You had an international lawyer who deals in media issues as well. You had a presenter who presents and very well versed in current affairs as well. So Talha, what was your take home or take back from this whole panel discussion? Did you feel it added to your understanding of what's happening, and in terms of how you're going to frame and advance dialogues and discourse around this topic and many other humanitarian issues and global issues around the world?
I personally feel that today's attempt to approach the freedom of speech in relation to a schooling environment was extremely valuable. I learned a lot from all the panelists and from all the information that we've received today. We listened to many different narratives and were given information which was aimed mostly at how we can educate students in order to approach healthy and constructive debate. The panel presented us a lot with what it means to develop a sense of understanding in how we use our freedom of speech in our daily lives. So a lot of what we talked about is, although we do have the freedom of speech, how we utilize it in order to make a more productive society, to both understand where others are coming from in relation to debate. So I feel that from listening to the panelists, I've learned that although we do have the ability to exercise our freedom of speech, there are consequences to the things we might say, and we have to be respectful to everyone and look at both arguments all the time.
Yes, so I think it's a case about progressing the argument, making your point, and discussing the situation. And it's not to attack your men. You've used the analogy of soccer, which I'm sure both of you are interested in. Like I just said, my assumption here. So you play the ball and not play the men, so to speak. Is that something that you took back from there, Thomas?
Yes, definitely, 100%. That says it very well. And really, I think what I have found quite difficult is, you're asked, you try to engage in these discussions, but you don't actually. I mean, for me, the more I learn about Palestine and Israel, the more I think I need to learn, the more that there is room to grow and to figure out about this whole issue. And that's really what today is. It really was about educating and opening up discussion. And I think, going forward, I'm able to engage in discussion better than I was able to yesterday.
And yes, and also because for me, what was problematic when the first newsletter came out in terms of this, when it was addressed to the school community, and then obviously went viral, and I think many of the former students, I think what is I think problematic was, instead of maybe having this panel discussion also much sooner, it was that message to say we're not allowing any discussion whatsoever because we don't. And I don't think that is the way, in any, whether it's a school community or in society, we do that. We cannot silence voices, but an attempt should made to understand perspectives. And I think that was what angered everybody, was that attempt, even for a brief period, to say we're silencing voices. Probably a better communication should have gone out to say that it's a very emotive issue, and it's getting where people are being upset because individual pupils are being attacked on this issue. So we are in a process of inviting panelists to assist our students in terms of understanding issues as well, what is happening in media, and how to progress dialogue and conversation, not only around the Palestinian Israeli issue, but any other issue locally and both globally as well. How do you feel about that, Talha?
I think that at the root of what it means to be Redhillian is that we are always open to open discussion and debate. I feel that a lot of, with the original message, I can understand the way it was worded and the way that, things progressed from there. But at the end of the day, we were bound as Redhillians to have open discussion, to have open debate, to talk about the struggles going in Palestine, between Palestine and Israel. So, and I think now that we've had a panel discussion and we've learned the ways on how to channel our emotions in the way that we can now constructively debate with each other and move to a more productive discussion, I think that's an invaluable lesson that we've learned. And it's been a difficult progression, but we have got there. And I think as a Redhill students, I'm excited to see what we have for the future.
So what I'm going to do is we need to take a short break, but while we're taking the break, I'm giving you homework because I'm an educator as well. Before presenter, I was always an educator. So the educator in me is going to ask you, I'd like you to just share with others who are going to be watching this as well, who didn't have the benefit of this panelist, what was the standout from maybe the panelists whether it was Professor Anton Haber or if it was advocate or I think attorney, not advocate, but attorney Ben as well as Flo, what was the takeout message that you got, or if you could just maybe summarize or paraphrase some of the points that they had spoken to you about that I had a lasting impact in you and in terms of helping you move forward. So if you can just think about this, that you could share. I'm also keen to understand what was said. I would have loved to be there, but due to presenting commitments, I could not attend. So if you could just share with us as well as all the listeners. So let's take a short break while I allow you to recollect.
For their attention against their smartphones, you need to make smart choices, like using refined pure sunflower oil in every meal you make. It's naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation, part of a balanced eating plan. So whether you're cooking, frying, you get the great tasting results that'll get their attention faster than the latest app. And if that doesn't work, use the Wi-Fi password. Sunfoil. Now we're cooking.
As the crisis in Palestine continues, the Africa Muslim Agency teams are on the ground facilitating emergency food and medical assistance to the affected families. Donate 15,000 rand or any amount and help the people of Palestine. Call AMA now 083-251-9376 or donate online at Africa Muslims Agency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salon Media.
Welcome back. You tuned into Mid Morning Talk, and yes, we are in the final minutes of our final segment here, and I'm chatting to two pupils from Redhill School. One is the student president, and then the other is the head of student judiciary. And we are catching up. So Redhill School had a panel discussion. They invited panelists to speak to the students regarding the media and how to understand the information that is out there in the media. And this is on the back of the correspondence from the school regarding the situation, and not to engage in any dialogue with regard to this until this panel discussion was taken place. So yes, this is just a catch up here, and let's just see if I've got Thomas in, Telha back, and yes, in the break, as any educator, good educator would do for the well-being of their learners, homework time. So I asked them to just recollect, yes, what was said, something. So let's start with you, Thomas. So what were some of the points that any of the panelists made that had an impact with you in terms of moving forward, of understanding this discussion?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of what the panelists said was really insightful. But one thing that stood out for me is that we are that having freedom of speech is something that we should not take for granted. For South Africa, there have been so many struggle icons and so many people who have strived so we could be here where we are today, where we can have open discussion and where we can voice our voice. But it also comes with a responsibility, the responsibility to say things that aren't hate speech, finding that difference between freedom of speech and hate speech. And I think that line sometimes becomes blurred, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we check ourselves and we make sure that we don't cross that line.
Thank you for that. And Talha, let's see if what can you recall from the whole discussion, your take back from that moment.
So I think one thing that really did stand out to me was that when Ben Winks was speaking, he gave a very nice metaphor of how we should correctly use our freedom of speech. So his metaphor was that we have the freedom to swing our arms, but we have to be careful not to overextend our space or our right of freedom of speech to implicate others. So in the sense that we do have freedom of speech, and we need to be able to understand that how we use it is important and how it's viewed by others is important. So by using our freedom of speech, we need to be very careful that we're not overextending into terms where, like Thomas said, it becomes hate speech or it becomes verbal bullying. So just that understanding that what you say does have importance, and you are allowed to use that freedom of speech. But when it starts bordering, when it starts moving towards hate speech or verbal bullying, then it can become it can be misinterpreted. So I think understanding that and knowing that what you can say to other people may come across as offensive, you need to be able to not overextend and give everyone the right to feel that their opinion matters.
Absolutely. And as I said earlier, I think it's vital that we do discuss issues like this wherever, as you say, we have a fantastic constitution that allows us various civil liberties. And I think the one of the greatest gifts is our freedom of speech and to express our views, but always to be mindful that let's play the ball and not play the men. We don't want to get any red cards, so to speak, be red carded. So yes, I think as young students, it's up to you now to bring those discourses to the fore. To actually today with social media, it's so much easier to amplify voices of people wherever they are that are being marginalized, that are experiencing human rights abuses, atrocities, and yes, as responsible global citizens, let's be that voice and platform and amplify those voices. At the same time, be cognizant of using that voice not to injure or insult somebody else in the process. So it's about respect, it's about rights and responsibilities. At the same time, our responsibility of highlighting humanitarian atrocities the world over. So I see two young future humanitarians as well, because this is a humanitarian platform. And yes, I see two humanitarians that will then progress this discourse and take it into the future, and not only highlight the Palestinian-Israeli issue, but as I've mentioned, global issues where people don't enjoy the civil liberties we do. And that's our challenge. We need to assist everybody out there to enjoy this freedom of speech that we ordinary South Africans enjoy and guaranteed and enshrined by our constitution. So both Thomas and Talha, thank you so much for joining me, and looking forward to reading about whether it's on a blog or whatever, but making waves. And also you are in matric, so good luck for your year and for your examination as well. And hopefully we will read about you doing well in your matric year as well. So thank you for your time in joining us here on Salam Media.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Peace and blessings to both of you. Yes, and that was two matric pupils from Redhill School. And yes, important to highlight issues, and our voices should never ever be silent. But as I say, whatever issue we're speaking about, and no matter what the atrocities is, it is important that we address the issue, we highlight the issue, amplify the voices of those marginalized or even those that voices are suppressed. I'm thinking of the Chinese in Uyghur, where their voices are really, really suppressed and they don't have a voice. And it's up to us to highlight the issues, but at the same time, let's not attack the person or offend anybody while we're making the point in terms of a direct affair. Yes, what you say in the issue might be unpalatable for many or difficult to chew or to accept or to swallow, so to speak, for many, because yes, they find it uncomfortable depending on what their views and perception is. Yes, uncomfortable issues we need to address, but let's be just cognizant that we do not personally attack an individual in doing so, because I mean that's what it is. Or as the saying goes, all is fair in love and war. So please do highlight things, and if somebody is feeling uncomfortable due to the situation, that is on them, but just be aware not to attack a person individually. So that's it. It's been an exciting 2 hours, difficult 2 hours. I've just received messages from sister. I received a message from Sister Shamshad to say her apology. She was very, very emotional, paying tribute to our beloved sister whom we lost yesterday due to the COVID pandemic. Really, very difficult moment. And speaking of that, please do take care, be responsible. But one thing I'd like to bring, and that's for me personally, take every precaution, but please, at the end of the day, we need to put our trust in the Almighty. So keep your trust, keep your prayers, and inshallah, put your trust in the Almighty to protect us. And my dua is, whatever I say, dear Allah, whatever you choose for me the best and most favorable outcome. And that is the dua for us, because both in life and in death, if we live according to a certain way of life, if we practice certain things, we fulfill our rights to each other as human beings, then success is guaranteed to us both in this world and in the day after. So in whichever way the outcome must be, whether it is your time up or alhamdulillah, the Almighty still bestows you with life on this earth, make it useful, make it meaningful, make it count, let it be a favorable outcome. Let us be winners in whichever way the Almighty chooses for us. So inshallah, put our trust in the Almighty, take all your precautions, but as everything, whether it comes to protecting our home, our possessions, our family, and now our health against a pandemic like this, let's take our precautions, let's tie our camel, but at the end of the day, put our trust and our faith in the Almighty. And remember, our greatest weapon that we all have as believers is our prayers. And let's connect with the Almighty and let's use that weapon, and let's pray for us for a favorable outcome in this world and in the hereafter. And with that, I leave you with peace and blessings from me, Maryam Mia, until tomorrow. Just before I go, there's one message from Mokalo 7860, and says Redhill School needs to embrace diversity and open debate on Palestinian Israel issue. And let's hope that this panel discussion has had open way for a meaningful debate and discussion on the Palestinian Israeli issue. And yes, time will tell if this was just window dressing or if this is now leading to honest, free, and open debate on the issue, on this issue. Well, let's see. The platform was there. History will tell, and history will also tell which side, where you were the right side of history. And for me, that is telling when you leave your mark, and later when you reflect, and when your family reflects and your community reflects, when they see you, which side of history will you be with? Well, as I mentioned, we pray for favorable outcome for us both in this world and in the year after. And with me, may you, this from me until next week, may you be under the mercy and blessings of